Okay. All right. Welcome to the meeting of the Plymouth Community School Board of Trustees for August 4, 2015. If you'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item of business is to set the agenda. Andy, any additions or corrections?
There were some personnel changes, additions that are noted there, and then we needed to add the teacher evaluation plan for consideration for the school year, and then some alterations to the facility plan.
Okay. With those additions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is set. Item 1.3, are there members of the audience that would like to address agenda items this evening? We'll get another chance here at the end of the meeting, but thank you for your attendance. The next section is the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that a board member would like to have considered individually? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the consent agenda. Comments or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. On to business transactions. And item 3.1 is one of our favorite agenda items, report on the alternative school.
One of the favorites.
Just one of them.
I love alternative school. I love teaching there. I have sweat dripping off the back of my legs whenever I do this, so just.
That's a little too much information.
I'm going to move this because I'll knock it over. Always a pleasure to come here and talk about my students going over obstacles and achieving great things for the year. As you know, if any of you have ever been in my classroom, I do digress from academics sometimes and have obscure conversations. Last fall, we were talking about Harvest Moon. I was telling my kids, Harvest Moon, Neil Diamond's one of my favorites, and they're going, Neil who? You know, so I played the Neil Diamond song, and one of my students came back and said to me, Mrs. Clevenger, I'm going to come back at the end of the year and play that for you. And I'm like, sure. And Mr. Hartley was there in my room one day. We were working, and he came back. Yeah. I'm going to cry again. He did this for me. It's Chandler. He's very talented. He's a great kid. And he graduated this year. I saw him walk across the stage. Would you like me to sing along with him?
Sure.
Why are you singing? And I think I was crying at this time too. Too much of a cry. Yes. So I wanted to start out on that, since then my data may sound more exciting. If you guys want to listen to it later, you can click on your things. August 1998 to today, lots of new things. New classroom, new computers, again, new programs this year we're using to enhance student engagement, enhance student academics. It's all great, and you could go to the next one. The only thing that's still the same, I'm still there, we still have 2 sessions a day, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. Some of the things I want to talk about now are the changes we've made this year. We use Pearson Online GradPoint products, and this year I think we made a real positive move with those for student achievement and for the teachers to use at the high school. I met with the teachers in the springtime, all the core teachers. We reviewed Pearson GradPoint syllabuses to their syllabuses. We made Pearson align as closely to their syllabus as the time frame as we could. So now some of our students transitioning middle of the year, like say from the high school to my school, it will be an easy transition and an easy thing to follow. Also, one of the things that I forgot to add, I did this in July, so a lot's happened since July. We added a flex class. Pearson has a flex class, and it doesn't go in sequential order. So, and I enrolled Mrs. Cryer this year in econ. So, because she wanted to help one of her students that was having problems with the standard, and she was able to go in there and just assign the student the one lesson, the one block, the one chapter that they'll be able to use. Hopefully during our semester intersessions, they'll be able to use all of those flex classes to help them as another tool for remediation for some of those students too. I think that was another positive move. We met Friday, and Mr. Bales, Mr. Olson, Mrs. Goodwin from BHC, and myself created and modified all those courses, and Mr. Olson pushed the upload on them yesterday. So we'll all be starting with those modified courses. I think it's a great thing, a great move we made for all the students. Also this summer, thank heavens it rained a lot, we created 8 new English courses, 9A, 9B, 10A, 10B, to follow with the new textbook. I met with the English department at the beginning of the summer, and then Mrs. Schmeltz and Ms. Dorland, thank them, came over and worked with me this summer, so that, again, our English courses align more closely with the Plymouth High School English courses. And the new textbooks, the collection textbooks, are fabulous. They're, lots of nonfiction, they're great stories. I think it will be a good improvement in that area too. I again attached the link to the DOE that shows our alternative school grant, the description of our grant, and our student data. This information has not been uploaded yet. We did it like June 4th or something. And the DOE has, believe it or not, some of the other schools haven't turned theirs in. I think it was due June 15th. So, but soon our information will be there, and you can read our grant description, our data that we turn in. This year we met our ECA goals, our graduation rate goals. We did not meet our attendance rate, and part of that was we added the night school into our grant, and the night school has a high attendance rate, and I believe they're going to be working to help solve that, because the alternative school, we did meet our attendance goal, separate and alone. And Mr. Hartley and I uploaded this in June, as that part as well. Okay, the next one. This one is alternative school enrollment by trimesters, and this is a little misleading, and I apologize. When I turn my data into the state, I count each student each trimester, and a few of the seniors were with me 2 trimesters, so they were actually counted twice. But I used the information I used to the state, and I'm sorry that a couple of those numbers are just a little off. And you can go to the next one. This is another report that Mr. Hartley and I turned in. Did you know we turned this in, Mr. Hartley? You signed it.
Yes.
Okay. Every year we have to do at the end of the year what's called an eligibility and outcome. Each student that applies and accepted to alternative school has to fall under a certain eligibility, and those eligibilities are intends to withdraw, failed to comply, and failed to comply just means, failed classes, didn't enroll in enough classes, didn't enroll in the right classes. Parent, expectant parent, or is needed to work more full employment. So those are the eligibilities. And the outcomes are listed up there, and those are all listed on there. Not all students who attend alternative school can be counted on this eligibility and outcomes. To count them, they have to need 2 or more credits. They have to have one of the 4 qualifiers I just read, and they have to attend a 3-hour session. Some of the students, we've become very flexible with the high school. Like if the high school scheduling doesn't work out with them, they can send them to me for 1 period a day for a class. Or I've had students that have left the high school perhaps in the middle of the year only need 1 or 2 credits, and so they come and get those, and we can't count them on that as well. All of the alternative school students that walked the stage in June made all graduation and ECA requirements. Okay, and the next page is night school. The night school has a lot more underclassmen than I do, and part of that is they're trying earlier interventions. You know, if a student in 9th grade fails a class, they put them in night school to make up that class right away instead of letting them get so far behind, or wait till their junior year and have them take a 9th grade class. So some of those ECA math and English scores, either if there's an NA there, they were 9th graders and didn't qualify yet to take the ECA, or if they're 11th graders, they still have 2 more opportunities to take the ECA at that. And this year's enrollment, our average yearly enrollment was 52.6, average this year was 66. We have 51 seniors, 48 graduates of 2015, 94% seniors graduated. We have 2 of the seniors that didn't graduate coming back as 5th-year students. They're already enrolled this year. They could finish by the magic October 1st date. We had actually 2 withdrawals and 1 expulsion. And this one, all of our programs this year, and these are the total credits that all the students earned in alternative school, PHS Credit Recovery School, that's Mr. Vales, night school credit recovery, and miscellaneous students that are homebound that work independently. 407 is a lot, so I'm real happy with that. Now, this coming year, with 2 semesters, changed from 3, I look for the alternative school enrollment to be down, because I'll only be enrolling students 2 semesters. But theoretically, the credits they earn for the total year should be the same, because they're going to be there the same amount of time. So that's my goal I'm shooting for. And we can go to the next one. We have an alternative school advisory board that chooses the candidates for alternative school. We met July 27th. We had 31 applicants when I made this in July, but it turned out to be, I think, almost 40 we had applicants. And we have 17 that are enrolled to start tomorrow. And just one little addition thing. For the last couple of years in English 12, I've had all my students do a career research project, and that research project is research a career, research a college, practice filling out college applications, a resume, and a cover letter. This year we expanded it and we included filling out scholarship applications, the common scholarship application, several of the high school applications. We set up college visits. My volunteer group, several of them, met with me after school several times. We worked on their scholarships, we finished their applications were in, and we made positive moves. Several of them were accepted at IUSB and Ancilla, 2 at Ivy Tech, and one of my boys is in the military. Walking in the door when that school starts is another thing, but they're all in there. One of my seniors who the Plymouth School Board of Trustees gave the scholarship to earn, she graduated with the Core 40 Honors, tiny baby, Core 40 Honors. She got $3,500 in private scholarships and was a 21st Century Scholar as well. So look forward to another great year, another good things happening. For those that are new, you can interrupt me at any time. I talk fast, but does anyone have any questions?
Susie, the 2 students that are coming back that can finish in October, will they be counted towards?
The 2015 graduating class, if they finish by October 1st.
Okay, so that will even raise that percentage higher. That's outstanding.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
With you at the helm?
I'm sorry?
With you at the helm, it's a given.
Some of them have kind of a full dance card, but we're going to give it the Girl Scout try. So that's what we're shooting.
You do a good job. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions?
Could you mentioned the advisory board that reviews.
It's usually a high school principal, or 2 or 3. Sometimes we have all 5. And the guidance counselors, and sometimes Brittany, the social worker, and myself. So, thank you so much. If you don't mind, I have a little bit more to do to start school tomorrow. I will not stay for the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Thanks. Thanks.
We will then move on to 3.2, consider facility plan.
Sure. Several months ago, we brought to you some ideas that came out of our stakeholders committee and out of our administrative assistants visit that paid. They came and looked at our schools. And so tonight, we're going to present what we believe we can afford to do in a facility plan. And there'll be two motions. We'll want you to vote for the facility plan that we're presenting, and then 3.3, we'll ask you to give us permission to start working on a bond. So, Dave Shove and Cassie Quizzle. Cassie's going to be an architect student at Ball State next year. She interned in our office this summer and worked with Dave to do some drawings and some 3D renderings of what we would like to put together so you can visually see. I have kept Mr. Binge in the loop, and so far he's given us his go-ahead that everything that we have is exactly what they need. So we'll continue to keep him in the loop, and Mr. Condon, and probably we might even ask Coach Barron to come see some of the things that we're doing. So I would like to introduce Dave Shope and Cassie, and they will go through the plan.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Ms. Quizzle and I will take just a brief amount of your time to cover information regarding this proposed facility improvements, and we have some updates and the recommendations from our facility committee as well. And in the first slide that we have, Cassie, you have the 3D rendering of some proposed improvements at Plymouth High School. I would like to hand this off to Cassie so that she can show you some of her renderings and the vision for improvements to the entrance and concession stand areas at Plymouth High School. And she can tell you a little bit about what she learned and things that she discovered through this process.
Hi, as Mr. Tyree and Dave said, I'm Cassie Whistle. I'm a graduate from Plymouth High School this year. I was accepted as an early admission to the fall studio of the College of Architecture and Planning at Ball State University this fall. I created floor plans for the 2014-15 Building Trades House, and Mr. Tyree offered me the scholarship. I couldn't surpass it because who wants to get ahead of their classmates? These are what I have done for the football field. Some of the major improvements that have been proposed by our plans are creating this pavilion right here, around back over here from the football view. We're going to add in a family restroom, a men's restroom, a women's restroom, and that big old ugly electricity box in the middle of the commons. Yeah, that's going to go in a little storage area. So that's gone out of the way. And another thing is that this provides space for people to sit and eat, converse with other people, and stay out of the weather. Another thing that we did here was the current concession stand building, all we did was add a second story. This allows us to make the overhang a lot better and bigger so that people can stand underneath there when the weather gets bad. We also changed it up, so there's no more storage in this building. Both athletics and music boosters will be in this building with their concession stands. Bathrooms are still going to be the same, and then that's all I have.
So, giving you a little bit of a vision of what we could do to repurpose the existing building, make some improvements to it. We did have to put that knee wall in to elevate that overhang to create that depth to get people out of the weather there. That's been kind of one of the things that we wanted to do, as well as create the off-street cement area for people to come to attend the games, and so that people aren't out in the parking lot in traffic and things like that. And this area as well would give me some area to take snow away from the lot and not have to do that hauling and snow removal and trucking and things like that. So that was the rendering for that. And then if we could, moving on.
Can we ask questions before we move on?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
So the, get my orientation here, so the,
Sorry.
I almost had it. So this will be one entrance then, coming in previously, there was an option on the north end.
We have a small optional entrance at the north end of the facility by the band tower as well. We were gonna see how the bids came out and propose that as an optional alternate to the project to look at that budget consideration. So we were gonna try to have two entrances in the project. One at this point and the other one on the other side of the bleacher where it was previously. The asphalt area off to the side over here becomes sort of an EMS area where we can bring in, and if we would have to, for any emergency situation, we would have that. And then the bleacher would still be over in this north area.
I've never worked with this program before. I had to learn it all this summer myself. There's a couple things in here that I could not figure out how to do. There would be an archway above the ticket booth with naming rights still being decided.
Is there any other question of?
So if I heard correctly, you said second floor, what is the purpose of
It's
this?
just, basically, it's a knee. We took off part of the roof of the building, and what we're doing is constructing a partial wall to get, we need to raise the roof pitch on the building to create that overhang. So that was the primary purpose of that, was to raise that roof line so that we could extend the pitch out as needed to create this shelter underneath the, like sort of having like a storm shelter area here to keep people out of the weather. So if I were to leave the existing roof line now, the line would be so low that we wouldn't be able to get people under it. So we were elevating it, and then we were gonna, this really isn't a glass piece, would be sort of like an opaque, like a fiberglass type thing to let natural light in the building, and it may end up being slightly smaller, similar to what's at Kent Field, at the concession at Kent Field,
Soccer play.
at the soccer complex, so.
We're aiming, Todd, to keep the architecture between Kent Field and the football field similar.
And Nixon Field as well,
Yeah.
throughout.
Dave, is there two restroom facilities there?
There are two existing restrooms now that are really, with our crowds, not really enough.
Right.
And then there's a family restroom in the pavilion over here. And then there are additional men's and women's restrooms, and then an electrical room for the components for the facility.
So in essence, you're adding two more.
We're doubling our restroom
Good.
capacity for that and enlarging our dining area.
Are there renovations to the existing restroom?
Yes, that was in the proposed budget for this, yes, sir.
And storage then that you're taking out of the existing building will go in the new?
It will go at the north end, down by the band tower. We've put that in.
I'm sorry.
Storage.
I'll show you that when we get further into this a little bit, but yeah.
So,
Right.
So again, just for, make sure I understand the orientation here, where is the existing entrance?
Right here where the
Right there
sunrise
where
is.
the asphalt ramp is there. The current Booster Club.
So
would
as
be-
far as the existing pavilion for the Booster Club, all that?
That was going away,
Well, it goes away.
Yeah, it does not have a footing under, like frost footing under it. There's quite a bit of heaving in the foundation for that, and we have some areas where we've had to paint lines and tape things for, trip hazards and things like that, so. So we were gonna
try to construct this new pavilion.
So that will
dining
just be,
pavilion.
from that point over to the stands will just be open?
It will be open. There is a bleacher in this project as well, an enlargement of the bleacher, so.
The, both concession stands will be in the new building, or in the renovated
In the
building, but they'll be
renovated
separated. And then the dining area will be for both, if you want to go to the music boosters and get a hot dog, or go to the athletic boosters and get a hamburger, whichever you do, you'll be able to go over to the pavilion and sit down and eat. So, while we're taking down the old athletic boosters pavilion because of safety hazards, we're gonna give them a nice new renovated space with all kinds of electrical outlets for them, and they can do what, if they wanna continue to grill, there's a place out back where they can grill. And also, the junior high section is right where they grill, and a lot of times the kids start dive bombing them with Cokes and Sprites and Gatorades and whatever they've been selling, and so we have to go up and take care of that, and so that will remedy that situation.
Plus the smoke. from
Plus
where
the
it is
smoke.
now.
Yep.
The smoke is in the bleacher now, quite a bit.
But by moving it over, there were two reasons. One was to get extended number of seats in the bleacher area, but also to give us room to get people out of the parking lot, because it's dangerous when you got cars trying to park, and we really need to get them up off the sidewalk and get them into the grass. So, or get them there'll be concrete, get them into the concrete area.
Well, we can jump back and forth with things if other questions come. So I have bleacher and press box replacement. I have assembled a few slides to show the replacement of our nearly 40-year-old outdoor bleacher at Plymouth High School. The benefits of the project would be as followed. We would have increased seating capacity, and we would have an improved view of the track and field for patrons. Could you look at the next one? Then we would have enhanced ADA accessibility for students and patrons with disabilities. Right now, our current configuration places everyone to the north in a pretty low area with a ramp that transitions into grass. So the next slide. This shows a fully integrated ADA code compliant system of ramps as well as steps. The replacement of this structure would lessen the burden and some of the costly repairs to our current CPF budget that we've been putting into this structure at this point. We're starting to hit that tipping point for repairs, so we put this on as and then this front view here shows the ADA seating in the front, the carols for that, the ramp. It shows a center exit for people to go under the bleacher, and this was proposed as an entrance for the home team to enter the field at that point, which would separate the two teams as well. The next slide shows a two-tiered press box with a filming observation platform. We were going to have an elevated step up in the press box so that we could double the seating inside of there, and that would meet the growing needs of the area for that, as well as a roof area for filming. Finally, if we're moving forward here, Cassie and I have drawings of proposed improvements to the PCSC administration building.
Second, are there any questions about the bleachers of this?
What's the bleachers made out of?
It was an aluminum structure with stainless and galvanized components is what I was speccing for it. The press box is an aluminum structure as well. We have treated lumber in the observation and filming platform areas now. The press box has some conventional lumber components, which probably wouldn't build it that way today if you were constructing something like this. And that, at that time, it met the need, I guess, but.
Dave, did you talk about the walkway underneath?
No, I did not, sir. Going back, there is, as I said, go back to that, yeah, there's, we were gonna have a center tunnel to exit the field area and for the bleacher, as well as we were gonna put in a center cement walkway to take people back and forth, you know, instead of being out in front of the bleacher there. This design brings the bleacher up to the track, and it would be starting literally right at the fence and be at lane 8. That gets the people closer to the game, and then the bleacher is slightly steeper to elevate it a little bit to improve the sight line, which would be over the player to the game or to the running event, things like that.
The press box is as big as it can be without putting an elevator in. And so by putting 2 rows, putting that elevated second row in the press box, we're going to be able to double the capacity of the press box.
So what does this do to the overall seating capacity?
The seating capacity now is at 2,000 in the home bleacher. I currently have it spec'd out at 2,516 with the ADA spots. And so that takes us up 500, but if we bid the project, we could, depending on alternates, we have that spec'd at an 18-inch seat. So we could cut it back to a 16-inch seat or even a 14 if we had to, which the aisles are wider than what we have now to get people in and out, but we can play with the seating width to adjust the number depending on alternates in the bid. So we could be, it's sort of a numbers game, depending on what the need is. You can adjust that, but it would be at 2,500 seats with an 18-inch seat.
The present capacity is 2,000 at a 14-inch.
At a 14-inch seat, so.
So we're going to be above that regardless of what we do.
I guess, I don't go to every event. Was capacity an issue?
Capacity has been an issue at the heavily attended games. That's why for a few years the band was out in the end zone. So this will give us plenty of room to have the band up back in the bleachers again without having to worry about overcapacity. Capacity tends to change with our record. You know, if we're 6-0 or 7-0 and going into 2 home games, then we're probably going to have capacity, overcapacity, and that was one of the wish lists that Mr. Binge had. We put more seats in this one, so we're able to do that. But as Dave said, we'll probably bid it with some options to make sure that we don't go over a certain amount of money in the total. And the number of seats is like I said, it's definitely going to be bigger than what we have now. It's going to have bigger capacity than we have now, even if we have to cut it from the 18-inch seat to a 16-inch seat. We're still going to have more.
I can tell you at a harvest festival, it is at capacity.
Yeah.
Those bleachers are packed from end to end, top to bottom.
And the other side too.
Yeah.
Does the seating capacity affect any type of selection for tournament games, or is that not an issue?
No, they don't, because it's based on where you are on the bracket. If you're,
I never understood how.
I think if you're
the draw.
I think if you're the top school in the bracket, you play at home, and if you've got in the next round, if both of you were on the top bracket, then you continue to play at home. But if one was on the top and one was on the bottom, then it switches, and the other one becomes a home team. So it is hard to to figure out sometimes if we're home or away, but it depends on who we're playing, if they've been home or away, the number of times, and where we are in the bracket, so.
It could possibly affect us on a track sectional though, posting that again.
Yeah, possibly.
We have upgraded the visiting side bleacher previously.
sorry?
The visiting bleacher was upgraded in 2005. That is, we have more than adequate space in that. That bleacher is right at about 1,000, so that would put us around 3,500 and up, which is maybe 500 less than the varsity gym for volleyball, basketball, things like that. We're at 4,000 in the gym.
Mike Ganger, who does the sports for Northridge, took a poll of the ugliest NLC football facilities, and we won. We won that poll because several of the schools have just gone through renovations, and I'm a Facebook friend of his, and was disappointed to see that we were the ugliest and the most needed a renovation. I wrote on there that we were planning some renovations right now.
How old are the bleachers now?
In service in 76 for an outdoor bleacher, closing to 40 years. We've already replaced the units in the varsity gym back in 2007, and they don't sit out in the weather in conditions like this. So, and I was sort of like thinking of the CPF, and as we have to keep shelling out the money and making repairs, we're going to be, and that is a struggling account sometimes to have the funds available to do that. So that's where we're at this point with it. Let's see. So finally, Cassie and I will present drawings of proposed improvements to the PCSC administration building and review estimated costs for all projects. The renovations.
Okay. This is the east side of the building, over there. Currently, there's only 2 offices, and it ends there. But with our proposed plans, we've add a hallway in here, an extra office, flex office space, and a records room. This records room would keep the fireproof safes, the heavy records, and the short-term records that we don't need, or that we need at this moment. The flex office space gives everyone their own little office. Right now we have 3 people in one office, 2 in another, 1 in a workroom. So it kind of gives everyone a new place and a new personal space. There's an upstairs to this. This would create storage for miscellaneous records and storage. Any questions on this side?
Presently, our storage is across the street in the old administration building. And so anytime we need something, we've got to run over there and search for it. And sometimes it's raining, snowing, it's terrible weather out. This would bring the storage back into the building right there where we are. And the way we're going to build it, there's no way that we can ever turn that into office space because there's not an elevator there. So it's always going to be record retention.
Some HVAC mechanical up there, and then some records retention and blocks. Not a fully finished space, but just Spartan with drywall hung, but that would be about it.
And the west side of the building over here. This will provide a second entrance to this building for different activities at night during the day. There'll be 2 additional offices and a conference room. We're also going to expand the boardroom. This place can get very, very tight, as I've heard. So we're going to add a little bit more of a boardroom. You guys will be now up on a raised platform. And then the other purpose of this is to expand for professional development. Between where this wall is currently, there will be accordion walls that can separate this room so that there can be 2 meetings held at once when we run out of conference rooms throughout the corporation.
2,700 square feet in addition. Yes.
The additional offices will really take care of some of the issues we have over in the old administration building because they're really tight over there. So several of those people would be moving over and inhabiting these two offices here. And it would, like they said, it would give us a lot more room for professional development. And if we have a lot of people come to the board meeting, it gives us enough room, we can have it here instead of moving it someplace. We designed this to be very flexible.
So this is my second time working with Soft Plan. I designed the 1415 Building Trades house with this. A couple of things that was harder for me on this project is with the Building Trades house, I had a piece of land and they said, go for it, have fun. This, I had a building here, so I had to work around that and figure out what dimensions would be when we take off the brick, to add in a hallway, to add in another office, depending on that. So that was like troublesome, and then I finally figured it out. Bruce had to help me a lot with electronic issues. So, and Mr. Robinson was definitely a blessing on that. I could call him up and he'd be over here helping.
Slide, if you don't have any questions. I've provided a cost summary slide that will, the total cost for all itemized projects in the top portion of this is $1,910,000, and the current proposal is in the form of a bond. And I have the restroom and concession stand improvements that I showed you at $550,000. The optional north ticket booth that we would put in as an alternate, the bleacher and press box replacement. We have some underground power issues that we want to put in conduit and put into this out there at that facility.
The NIPSCO lines that go right and back would be buried underground, and it's always been an issue with aesthetics, but it's going to be a bigger issue when the bleachers are higher because with the press box, you're going to be awfully close to those, so we need to get those buried and out of the way.
Some architectural fees. Then we have the administration building additions, and I put an allowance.
Are those Ms. Quizzle's fees, or?
This is conceptual at this point.
I went to college.
I know.
A lot of slides just is a little bit different, but.
She's in the school of architecture. So the estimated totals for those projects is $1,910,000. And then this is also, below that is a facility study and CPF update. Part of the findings of our facility committee were issues in the buildings such as the generator condition and things at Plymouth High School like that. We were able to get that project done this summer with the current CPF, so we have a new diesel generator, emergency backup power system installed at Plymouth High School. We added additional emergency lighting at every building that was needed and necessary to keep things moving along throughout the school day when we lose power. That was an important thing. Bruce put UPS battery backups on a lot of the technology things in other buildings. We have a secured entry upgrade scheduled for Riverside, which is kind of creating that entrance where we have the A phone and the vestibule to kind of like a staging area to identify people prior to leaving the building. And then the remaining two buildings that we have that to do at our Webster and Washington Elementary, those two are proposed for the summer of 2016 within our CPF plan currently. Then the last item there was the storage building that I was proposing to put out at the football field area, which is going to help with some overcrowding of electrical and mechanical rooms at Plymouth High School. We have to store wrestling mats in electrical rooms and things like that, and we have all this equipment and things that we're trying to get in a storage building so that they can be staged into the building. It's always an ongoing issue when we have inspections with state fire marshal and people like that. So that was an estimate that I came up with to put a storage building up to address some of those issues at the high school.
from an athlete's point of view, the storage building is gonna help a lot. I know during track season, right before everything's being pulled out, it's a pain to get in there. I was trying to get in there the other day, and I couldn't open the door because there's so much stuff. So it's really necessary, and it's also gonna help the band get their stuff in instead of having to drag it from one side of the building all the way over to the band.
We currently have one building, one area of Plymouth High School in the multi-purpose room that was designed for storage. At about any time you go in there, it can be stacked 6 and 8 feet high in there with things, gymnastics, wrestling, you know, different things like that. And we were trying to alleviate some of that overcrowding of things to have a storage area. So, I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have or go over and review and reflect for anything that's needed.
You're calling this, on the renovation of this building, you're calling this one room the boardroom. But actually, it's probably used more for training than it is for board meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's a once a month board meeting, but then it's a professional development room, it's an interviewing, it's a community. We use it for many, many functions throughout the month. Sometimes we schedule things in this building to save on our air conditioning and things if we can. People will pull meetings into this room throughout the district sometimes and use it as needed. It's a space that gets booked for many activities. So.
Questions? In the budget, you probably said this and I missed it, I was trying to be funny, and I'll be serious, on the architectural fees, is that, where did that come from?
Well, I'm looking at the bleacher component as more of a design build type process there where we would accept, I've created a basic specification for the bleacher, and then we would go out and get bids and advertise, and then so the fees for the bleacher and press box are sort of integrated into the cost of the replacement of that component. The architectural fees would come into play for site develop, like a site survey, getting the elevations, the grade changing, drainage plans, things like that we would have to do with laying that large piece of concrete out there at where the restroom and pavilion and all of those things are. We would have some fees in there for design work to make the drainage and runoff plans and things like that. So there would be a component there that we would need an architect involved in. And then as far as this building, we would have some fine tuning and details that we would have to do to get to that number. So it's not as high. Usually there's like a basic percentage of a project that would be, for architectural fees. If it's $2 million, they have a formula that might say it's 6%. And that formula is very low because I have the bleacher and I have that piece include a big portion of it in the design and build of that project.
Does that include the demolition of what's there?
Yes, that number includes the demolition and the salvage rights to the scrap for the project in my spec. We would just create a minimum specification of the outcome, create a specification of the outcome for minimums of what we would want to see, and then submit it to several bleacher companies and get and accept bids and review them at that. And then the engineering phase of that would be within their contract to build the bleacher. Yeah, that's why that was so low.
What are bond interest rates right now? Do you know? Candy, do you know?
What was the answer?
I think it was, the last one was 1.137.
Well, the,
But that's, you know, I've slept a lot of nights since then. So. I'm thinking that was the last one was PNC Bank.
Yeah.
We worked with Kurt Fletcher to come up with a maximum number, and that was $1,925,000. So with the alternates that we'll build in with the bleachers and the north ticket booth, we have a contingency in there, so if we need to, if things come in a little higher, we'll be okay.
and if I remember that discussion correctly, the bonds will be structured with our existing debt in mind to minimize or have little to no impact on our debt service level.
That's correct.
Behind the computer.
I'm saying that's good.
What is the timing date for?
I believe we would start after track sectional in May on demolition, bleacher, because we committed to hosting that, so we would start demolition immediately after that, and we would have it ready to open for football, for fall sports, band and football and all of that.
Bleacher Company is quoting us 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Goodness.
From design to
Demolition.
demolition in 6 to 8 weeks, yeah, weather depending. We would be, we would probably look at advertising after the first of the year and accepting bids, and then in February, something like that, and staging and getting the submittals all in on everything and moving forward in the later part of May to having it open for August. And the building I spec'd was a prefabricated building. It's a steel structure building that would be like similar to the one at the Splash Park type, you know, the new Splash Park where in Plymouth.
River Park.
Yeah, basically that structure would be set with a crane, a lot of it, and then there would be the footings and the blockwork for the restrooms. So it's not, the pavilion doesn't have a huge construction component. The renovation work is what's going to go a little slower.
But as far as the aesthetics and the gives up or down on the list you're referring to, it would be similar to what is across the street.
It would be very similar to what you see at Bill Nixon Field, the soccer complex, and at then the football field. All three facilities would be very similar in design with the split-faced block, the block front there, and then that elevated piece with a metal roof, which would reduce the maintenance versus the shingle roofs that we've had
So
now.
what happens with all the fencing planned around that field?
The fencing, we would, they would basically roll up whatever would be usable and save it to be reused, and then we would replace posts, but we would have an entrance of vertical pickets with, that would be similar to what is at Nick's, and I think has a vertical picket. That would be more of your entrance piece. It wouldn't be the entire facility there, but it would just be primarily at an entrance point. We tried to reutilize the existing building.
So when the teams, I'm just thinking of football at the moment, when the teams enter and exit, where does that happen?
Well, that is, the visiting team is currently at the south end of the field. We have a gate that is, they stage, the visiting team stages down here in this area currently, and they come out this way and go. We could do something where they go to the north end zone and go down the other ramp, and then our team could go out under the tunnel, which would separate the teams. It would be kind of a different idea. I mean, that would be, Mr. Bench, and they work those details out. That's not really my thing, but.
We'll probably Mr. Benja, we'll probably keep it to the south where it is now, because we put some lighting out there already to keep that illuminated, and then have the Plymouth team go through the bleachers. But what it would eliminate, it would eliminate the teams going through the entrance.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Trampling over little kids.
Oh, yeah.
Trampling over little
There's been
kids.
some close calls over the years with, especially with teams that are behind in the sectional. Good stuff.
So what are we asking for?
Well, the first is to accept the facility plan, that we can continue to work on it. And then the second motion that we would make would be to give us permission to move forward with the bond process. So my first recommendation then is to recommend that you approve the building facility plan as presented.
You've heard the recommendation.
I would so move. I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion, questions? First of all, thank you for all the information.
Yes.
Questions?
I just think the bleachers and the restroom facilities, I mean, they're just long overdue. Those two, I think they're most critical. And if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. And I think they did a good job on the planning, and I think it'll be very feasible.
I agree.
I concur with that. Melissa touched on something that, and I think I brought this up before, that, for almost 20 years of being on the board, I can think of maybe, I can count them on one hand where we've had attendance issues for a school board meeting. So I hope this is, I don't see this as a need for capacity for school board. I don't have that need whatsoever in 20 years.
That's really not why we build it like that, but that is if that happens, I remember a few times before I was in the central office, the meetings had to be moved to the high school.
I understand, but those,
Few and far between. It's mostly for professional development, meetings at night. You know, when we have meetings at the high school, professional development meetings, we have to have the entire HVAC on for the entire building. This way, we've got a place we can have two different meetings going on here and keep our energy costs down.
and in terms of the room for record retention or storage, I mean, how does that, I mean, how much of that, we just can't get away from boxes of paper as far as electronic storage and all that?
Yeah, we tried to do some electronic storage a few years ago, and we found out after we converted it all to electronic that it had to be paper. So we then had to revert all of them and change it all back to paper. So we do what we can.
When you say that, I mean, in terms of who's,
Employee files. Personnel. Has to be.
There's some things you have to keep for 100 years, or you
Yes.
know, and those things. Right now, they're just we've got a records retention room over in the other building, and
that's just contrary to everything that's going on in the world.
I know, but there's been no changes
Indiana does
for
not.
statute for the schools.
It's Indiana law, it's record retention law, and there's a lot of school records that you see keep permanent. So, unfortunately.
Other questions? We have a motion and a second to, I guess, accept and continue forward with the facility plan as presented. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think there was a second, I'm not sure.
The second motion is to give us permission to move forward with the bond. Just want to be transparent about what we're doing.
Yeah, there's no documents that we're contemplating here on our side. I mean, that, I mean, as far as really the authorization, if you will, to have the professional team, I guess, moving forward to do what's necessary for authorization. I mean, the dollar amounts that we're talking about here, is a general obligation bond, correct? Less than 2 million, so it's not a referendum or a petition process. I will certainly get this process going. I think everybody knows I have a conflict with the firm that serves as municipal advisor, so I'm going to abstain from that process, but I will certainly help facilitate that. So I think the motion that we're looking for is a motion to continue forward and ask our administration and professional team to do what's necessary for authorization of the bonding process.
So moved.
Second.
Have motion and second discussion. As far as, and I know we're going to talk about budget, but this would not be a 15 matter. I do think we need a refresher on what the debt structure looks like, et cetera. I don't know, my memory is escaping me here a little bit in terms of ensuring what I just mentioned, that this will have, because of our debt structure and how this would be structured, you never say no impact, because once you borrow money, typically people expect you to pay it back. So there is some impact, but it will be minimal given our debt structure. So with all that, we have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Cassie.
This internship has been valuable to you, Cassie, as you head down to Ball State.
Yeah.
And
Good luck.
good luck in school. You've got a video of your presentation that you can download and
I'll
you
just
can-
reference it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Item 3.4. Receive copies of extracurricular financial reports. I don't think this is an action item, right? We just have to, oh, sorry. I'm getting- I'm
It
getting
does
the
have to
thing
be
away.
acknowledged,
Yeah,
because
we have to acknowledge we've received those, right?
that you have those available to view.
Okay.
And again, this year, there's a new law that came in, and State Board of Accounts is now requiring all of the ECA documents in Gateway. So, and every building treasurer will have to report on Gateway. I have to go in, review all of it, and then submit it. I'm the submitter, they're the data entry, and we have to verify everything. So should be transparent, I believe, out there to everybody, but they haven't given us any guidance on it, which is pretty typical. And so I'm gonna get together with secretaries and we have to figure out, because it has to be done, I believe, by the 29th of August. The same with me, I have an annual financial report I have to do on Gateway as well,
Right.
for our budgets and grants. So that'll be something a little different, but yet we still have all the hard copies, because when the State Board of Accounts come in, if they are going to review those, they will review the hard copies.
So as far as the minutes go, we need to just have reflected that we acknowledge we've received those. So let's please have those reflected. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Item 3.5, consider school resource officer agreement with the city of Columbus.
Yes, so we hired our previous SRO to be our Director of Safety and Security, and as such, our prior agreement with the city indicated that when they filled out the new person, it was necessary to redo the agreement. So it's a new agreement here with the City of Plymouth. It does reflect a slight increase over the prior costs to the city. Ted just indicated to me that the grant we were hoping to pay for that increase, we did receive, so that's good news. And present that to you for your consideration.
You've heard the explanation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second to accept the school resource officer agreement with the city of Plymouth. Discussion. Ted, anything to add? Put you on the spot. I didn't see you hiding over there. Sneaky.
Appreciate questions.
Have motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 3.6, consider amendment to classified conditions of employment.
So as you recall, the legislator provided the opportunity to not have to do contract for our bus drivers this year. We still have the desire to maintain a contract. Really, this is tied more to us pursuing having e-learning days when we have snow days, and we would need to not have a number of days locked in with our classified conditions for our bus drivers. So the new contracts and the classified conditions would state it's a 10-month contract for days in which students physically attend school, and that's the only change that we're recommending to the classified conditions. We'll review the whole thing again in December, I think. So.
Heard the explanation, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have motion and second, questions? Has there been any feedback from the bus drivers?
I did meet with our bus driver committee. They understood. Primary question was maybe relating to the number of days that we were able to do previously with the 184-day structure. We had to take that down. So we won't be able to spread the pays out over a 26-day period. It'll just be during the 10-month period that they're considered.
I know just the challenges that we have getting bus drivers. This doesn't create any additional challenges unnecessarily. So
No, I didn't get any, I really didn't receive any negative feedback regarding that.
we have motion and second. All in favor, or is there any other questions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Consider 2015-16 teacher evaluation plan.
This is also tied to some legislation that came through this past session. Our evaluation plans, for which we're not recommending any changes, but we wanted to make sure that we discuss those with our Teachers Association, which we've done. And after that, then they are brought to the board. So there was no recommendation for any changes to the previous plan, but after we discussed, we're going to bring them to the board for consideration. Required by statute.
Okay. So, no changes?
No changes.
No changes in the procedure. There will be follow-up talk and discussion about the implementation of the plans, though.
We do have a committee that had been formed previously, and through our discussion, want to reconvene that committee to ensure that its implementation is going well and improve it. Looking at the structural piece of the plan, we're maintaining what we've had over the past couple of years.
Okay. So in my own words, we're meeting the new statutory requirements of bringing this for approval. There are no changes to the plan, but still there's going to be discussion on how it's going to be implemented. So moved. We have a motion.
Second.
2 seconds. We have a motion and second. Any other questions or discussion? Thank you. Or I'm sorry, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 3.8, legislative update. Legislature's not in session.
No, and, you know, it's just like the teacher evaluation plan. These are things that DEA brought to us as a new, part of the new statute that we didn't know, or we would have done this a month ago. So we're still finding out things that happened in the legislative session that we didn't know about, and I imagine we will continue to find out things in the legislative session.
I didn't realize. Thank you for bringing it past.
Yeah, so the only thing I can say about a legislative update is that we're continuing to find out what they passed and what they didn't pass.
Okay. We'll move on then to section 4, superintendent remarks.
Yep, I've got that today. So regarding commitment to students, we've had several new teachers who spent the last week in orientation and new teacher induction. Definitely appreciate their willingness to spend the time becoming acclimated with some of the practices that we value most. And we'll continue supporting them through this first year in PCSC with mentors, coaches, and a series of after-school workshops. Caring, I would like to recognize our media centers and our information literacy assistants, our ILAs, a lot of work and continue to do so in preparing, organizing, maintaining our technology assets. Their efforts, along with our tech department, really are what help make our one-to-one program run successfully, or help make it run successfully. High expectations in our efforts to maintain communication with our families. School Reach, familiar to all, has actually been updated to School Messenger. So there'll be some new and different features, but overall our ability to communicate through email, text, and voice messages will remain the same. And I think one went out this evening.
Still hear the friendly voice of our...
Still here.
Probably after September. After September.
Well, I need some education, because I got an email from School Messenger and I couldn't get it to play, so somebody needs to help me out.
We'll help you.
Right now, Sandy and Andy are the two experts.
All right,
Mostly Sandy.
Mostly Sandy, that's qualified.
I'm sure it's a user error, so.
Teamwork. Through the combined efforts of many of our staff, the online and on-site registration process ran smoothly and efficiently this year. Just to add to those comments too, from a new perspective for me going into the school year, it's really amazing how so many of our groups come together to prepare for the school year. I mean, you've got teachers coming together, preparing administrators, our administrative staff. It's really just been amazing to see from a different perspective how great our people are and how hard they work to put everything together to get ready for school. So. Integrity, in one of those groups, our technology department, really, I've mentioned before, worked hard in creating more efficiencies in bus routing, and with that, one of our computer-generated routes created something that maybe had students going to a group stop that was not the safest, and upon being informed of that, swiftly made those corrections, contacted families personally, and remedied it. And I was just really pleased at how quickly they moved with that. And enjoyment. Goodness, the first day of school for students begins tomorrow. We have a great school system structured with options that allow students to explore areas of interest while successfully preparing them for college or careers. And we have wonderful teachers, and administrators, and staff who care about their students. We work hard to provide them with meaningful and enjoyable educational experiences. It's a privilege to be a part of it.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions? Too early to tell on numbers as far as registration and all that?
Yeah, it'd be too early to tell. We look like right now we're right about where we were in February, which means we would be down 15 kids. But after I heard that, I also heard that we were getting more and more people registered. So by the Friday in September, the count day, then we ought to have a pretty good idea of what the numbers are then.
What's the next meeting date?
September 1st, 7 o'clock, and with a budget hearing to follow.
Any questions? Anybody in the audience? The Cluzel family, thank you for hanging. Questions for us or comments? Anything else from the board? I would entertain, hearing none, seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.